Hello, photo pillars. Rafael the Bar here. Welcome to another masterclass. Today we're going to learn photography composition with the great Jose Benito Ruiz.
Hello, how are you? Pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here in the show, Jose. Here in Spain and part of in South America, you're very known as a photographer. You have a really long career in photography and also in conservation, nature conservation. But for me, it's a great honor to have you here teaching us how to compose our images and all the basic elements of composition. So once again, thanks a lot for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. We are just starting with some primary teachings about elements, the visual alphabet, the syntax, visual syntax, and then just to approach how to use the elements in our frame to make stunning pictures and to improve the visual impact in the frame. So this is what I have been teaching for a long time, and this is the starting point in composition.
Mm-hmm. How you would say that? How important is composition in photography?
How important
is it? It is.
Oh, totally important. I mean, sometimes you don't have the light, sometimes you don't have the colors, but if you know how to distribute the elements and make this pop up the subjects in the frame, is enough. You don't always have a stunning moment or stunning colors. And if you know how to compose the picture, how to distribute the elements, and where to place exactly to achieve this kind of order, then the picture is appreciated, is much appreciated, because there's some intelligence behind. All the things that I teach in composition come from painting, especially from the classical painters, the Roman, the Greeks, and later the Renaissance. But not also, not only. Sorry, not only.
Yeah, I mean, the composition is a vast, is a key part in photography, any art in general. And today we're going to talk about also art. And well, for the people that don't know you, who is Jose Benito?
Well, I am a teacher. I have been for a long time competing in European competitions of photography. And then I became judge in photography. And I left in joining competitions and then started with my teaching lessons and this kind of vocation to teach and to learn from people, and photography especially. I have some books and I have plenty of conferences worldwide. I am in America, I'm part of ILCP, International League of Conservation Photographers. I publish in English and Spanish a lot of things. And also in the north of Europe, I go very often to Finland, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Norway.
Awesome. A true legend. So, Jose, if you're ready, I am ready.
Yes, let's go, because maybe all the participants would like to see what is this about? Who is this guy? I'm sharing my screen just to start with.
Now.
Yes, now is the crucial thing.
Yeah.
Let's hope everything is okay.
Yes, it will be okay.
Yeah, here we go. Well, this is good memories.
Yeah. Actually, Jose, you can hide this banner here at the bottom. You want?
Oh yes, I hide it.
Yes.
Sorry.
This is better.
It's okay like this. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy with the red thing.
I imagine I remember this photo, Jose. You in Menorca with Alan, with Al.
Al Kelman, my friend.
Al Kelman in the Photo camp.
Yeah, plenty of nice people. Such a good experience. I hope many of the people who are listening, they came to the camp. Maybe not this one, maybe another one, but it's such an experience.
Probably we have a few people that's been in Menorca with us in the Photo camp, and I don't know what I'm doing here at the top right-hand corner. I'm almost falling.
Yeah, beside Tony.
Yeah, Tony.
Okay, let's go then. Well, this is where I teach, casadelafoto.com. And this is the Instagram, and we have Facebook as well. And down are my personal Instagram, Facebook. I have several pages, but these are the main ones to learn from what I teach.
Awesome.
This is one of the pictures I was awarded long ago. I think the camera is the 5D, the old 5D, no mark, nothing. And it was awarded in a European contest. So it depicts a nesting colony of white storks. And well, you see the moon, obviously. And I was waiting something else because the sky was so empty. I was needing something in the sky. The moon was so far away from the birds. And then suddenly the birds came flying. And I saw them and then could very fast choose the adequate or what I was wanting to get, that was the movement. So the speed had to be accurately chosen, because if you are making a long exposure, which was my intention, if you choose 30 seconds, you cannot see any bird in the sky. In 30 seconds, they pass over and there's nothing. So it's about 1/8 of a second, the speed, shutter speed.
Beautiful image.
Sorry?
That was a beautiful image. Yeah.
Well, I like it. It's one of my songs. And this is the only raw is the current I started long ago. So I'm a purist. I don't like retouching my pictures. So I saw my raw files and I simply adjust them as a whole thing very easily. So the process, the flow is very fast. It's very fast for me to go on my pictures and finish them, because I work with the light, and the light ends up my picture. I don't need to do anything else. So it's funny, in the camp, in the first night, I go to the room, I spend 1 minute and put one in the Facebook. And next day somebody comes and says, you already processed one picture. It takes me 5 or 6 days. No, I do nothing. This is what came out in the camera. So it's funny how to see the faces when the picture is end up in the camera. Many people come to see, oh, the stars are there, everything is there. It's funny. So I want to show you some raw files. This is what comes out from the camera, just straight. So a little bit of contrast or a little bit of balance if I didn't choose the right one in manual settings. And then everything comes out. It's just only details or small things.
It's great to see somebody shooting only raw, because we are always surrounded by people. Editing is so common nowadays. And it's fantastic that you're keeping the old style of your own style.
It has a sense. It has a meaning, because I use my pictures very much in conservation. For example, in the magazine Pose and Close, I published an article about conservation photography, and then it needs to be only raw. That's the whole thing about the only raw. I don't do it because I want to punish myself and limit my pictures. Yeah. Well, so I started studying from the painters, because they started long ago, much longer than photography. So I studied very, very much from them, especially colors or schemes or tonal values. That was my starting point. So my lessons, many of them come from the Renaissance straight. And the composition is very complex. Many people think that with some tips you can manage, and it's not true. You will very fast start copying another guy's picture, which is not very good because you are limited. And you find very fast the limit of your tips. And then you start doing always the same, like a circle. So you have to go out there and you have to learn properly. And then you will have no limits. You will find what you want to get in your camera. So my proposal for composition is start with the elements, the visual syntax is an alphabet, so you can express yourself much better knowing the alphabet. It makes sense because when you don't know an alphabet, you are not able to speak. I have tried all this presentation through the years, so I think you will understand them, even if you don't understand me very much. So I wrote it and went on the translation and did a good job. So you can read it, and and I will try to help and complement what you read. So yeah, many things that we do in photography is establish dialogues between elements. Sometimes when you become simple in your frame and there are very little elements or very few elements, it's very important where you place them, how you establish this kind of relationships between them. So for me, it's a kind of, in this frame, it's a kind of dialoguing. It's the storks on the nest and the moon. It's a kind of proportions, which are the distance between the moon to the edges, to the borders of the frame, to the edges of the frames, and the distance from the moon to the rocks and the storks. This is proportions. If you learn about proportions and you find a nice one to apply, a nice structure of the picture, it suddenly starts to like people like it with very little effort. So for me, there are some key aspects with the elements, which is identifying them in the landscape, which is not easy because they used to be hidden. You can see trees and you can see rocks and you can see many things, but maybe you're not aware that the rocks are a texture or the trees are lines and the branches are lines. And the color is there. So you have to understand each of them and know how to use them. So you identify first, then use them properly, and they will lead you to the optimal observation point. Which is this? This is something that we don't often do, which is thinking, is this the best place to watch the landscape? Is this the best one? And then you move around and you think, well, I want to have this moon here and I want to have this rock here and the Milky Way up there. And then if everything is where you want it, if not, you have to move again until you find this optimal observation point where everything has a meaning, everything has a position, and you like it. And elements also make you more conscious about the values of your picture, make you more accurate about your picture, about your frame. And if you cannot see the elements in the beginning, is because you need a kind of level of abstraction. I mean, if you have to see the texture behind the rocks are in the middle, and you see the rocks, but you're not aware that it's a texture. So sometimes the reality doesn't allow you to see the elements, and a bit of work in abstraction will help you a lot. And composition will allow you taking pictures in the midday, 12 in the morning, everybody tired, sitting around you saying, oh man, such a bad time of the day to take photos. And then you point up and you say, no, I'm getting ready my wide angle for this. Oh, doesn't look very bad. And that's the starting point. But I am composing a circle with lines. You see it. And it's taken in with no color in the middle of the day in summer, where you think it's not possible to take pictures there. So composition, I think, is a great investment in time, in effort, because then you apply it to many things in life, but especially in visual arts like photography, painting, architecture, sculpture. So I think it's very, very much a good investment. To know where to place everything, to know what is an axis. This big rock is an axis on your left-hand side, and this little girl dead on the rocks is making a visual dialogue again to this rock, which is the axis. So we have the subject and the axis. We know that this is the subject because it's different to everything. It's a human body, and it's also containing the brightest tonal value in the frame. It stands out because of the tonal value, and it makes an effective dialogue with the upper part of the stone opposite. So this is a very strong structure to apply. This is another, well, you see that I do a lot of kind of photographs, not only landscape, not only by night, but my first works and my first book was about nocturnal photography. It was 1990, and it was slide film, all the book. It's called Nocturnal Nature, and it was everything slide film, Kodachrome 64 mainly.
Wow. 1990.
1990, yes.
Oh my God.
The cover, I think I put it somewhere, maybe for the end, was awarded in the Wildlife Photographer of the Year composition in the nocturnal category. So it's a long way.
Yeah, it is.
In a long way. Well, then this kind of dialogue, again, there's a dialogue between these two phases, and it's a classical approach with one in focus, one out of focus, and controlling very much the expression, because here there's nothing, there's no color, there's no beautiful light, it's soft light, it's a cloudy day, but then you have to put what you know in composition to help you. So this is the visual alphabet. These are our letters: point, line, outline, direction, tonal value, color, texture, scale, proportions, dimension, and movement. And separately, we study space from the Oriental culture, the concept of space. How is your frame, how much you want to fill it, and where you want to place the elements. So I think it looks easy, looks short, but every element is a world itself. We start with the point, which is the most simple, is the starting. If we have the frame and we place a point, we have something yet. Where to place a point is a strong thing already. So even a shape, a small shape, will act as a point, and it has this characteristic. It is small, but has a huge visual attraction power. It will attract your eye very fast. You see the dots very fast. So we use it in composition to balance the visual weights. It can be used to balance, but it can be also used to connect. It can be also used to mark or to reference. But mainly, it's a great help in balance. When you have a big weight in one place of the picture, and then you add a small dot in another place, and then you have the balance. This is an example we were making a workshop in the Torres del Paine. It's outdoors, and we are in front of this lagoon, and we were shooting the landscape. And then I told the group, why don't we stay a bit more until we have something to compensate, to balance this big weight on the right upper part of the frame. So we were there for 5 minutes, and a small flamingo came in the frame, and then I had my dot. My dot started to balance the frame. But I publish a lot of articles and covers for magazines, and I work with an agency in London, which is the Nature Picture Library from the BBC. And then I understand that it's very small. This dot is very, very small. So I told the crew to wait a bit more. Please wait a bit more, just 2 minutes. And the rest of the flamingos were approaching this one because they saw it was safe and nothing happened, so they came in. And we have now a small shape, which is a group of dots. This group of dots is working like shape, and now is balancing more effectively this big weight, this big triangle in blue up in the right part of the frame. Where do we place a point? Where there are different possibilities. Maybe you know the points of interest based on the thirds, on the proportion of thirds, but I did my preference, and I call them optimal anchor points. You have never heard about this before. And if you heard this name, I gave to the point. So it's the name I gave to this proposal. Let's take a look and see what you think about this. They are based in proportion. They are places where you can anchor a shape or a dot in the frame. This is I1, I2, S1, S2, and this is where I place them. Let's see a picture with my optimal anchor points. This is the most effective points I use, much more than those based on the thirds. And this is my own proportion. This is my own safety proportion to the edges. And it's very important for me to do like this. Maybe you know this one. It's very, very different to the one I show you. It's the classic points of interest, and they leave a lot of room on the edges. You cannot make a long diagonal, a long visual dialogue. They are very much to the center, and somebody will have the feeling that you can reframe your picture. So this is prevented by my points of interest. Now I have do a bit of Photoshop, which is one of the first times I do, just to move the bird, and you see which one do you prefer. If you prefer the first one or the second one. Again, we go to my anchor points, and that means that the rear part of the swan, the rear part of this shape, will have those proportion to the edge. We can put a square in the reflection of the tail, and then those are my proportions. And that can make you this flow inside the picture much more than bringing all the weight more to the center with the classical points of interest. Mm-hmm. When you are using two of these optimal anchor points, then you have an asymmetrical balance scheme. This is another concept, but it is based on the visual anchor points. This is very, very effective. It cannot be reframed. It cannot be cropped because you destroy the proportion, the original proportions. There's no room for that. So it's a closed frame by the author. And it's very, very strong. It has a lot of visual impact, this scheme. Line can be defined as a point in movement or a lot of points very close in the space, in the distance. And if there's a lot of them, it can be also a shape. Line can define a shape. Now we are using the whole Milky Way like a line. We are driving from up down to this delicate arc in Arches National Park. So again, it's a dialogue. It's very simple frame. I wanted to place the whole arc against the sky, and I wanted a cosmic view of the arc. There's a bit of illumination, very soft illumination. It's taking a very, very high ISO because I want to finish in camera. So it's 20,000 ISO, f1.8, 12 millimeters, and it's finishing camera. There was another group with an American teacher, and they came to see the picture. How do you do it? And I told them, which are your parameters? And they said, same as me, 1.8, f1.8 in diaphragm, 30 seconds. But they was ISO 20,000 and they were ISO 8,000. And then I told them, this is the difference. Your picture is very, very dark. Oh, yes. When you try to brighten it up, noise will appear more than pushing ISO. This is a very strong lesson in technique, not in composition.
Jose, when did you take that image? What? When? Yeah.
It was 2 years ago on a trip, on a learning trip through Montana, Arizona. Awesome. It was very short. It was 10 days. Yellowstone even. Yeah. Yeah. We were inspired by Ansel Adams for sure.
Ansel.
But we planned it very, very, very much with photopills. This picture with the arc. We took a first one with the arc and the moon set, and then the Milky Way came up, and we took two in the night, two shots that we were looking for. But it's very important that you can figure out first the picture in your head.
Yeah.
This, for example, I draw it for my professional group I was teaching in Norway. I got a piece of paper and a pencil, and I said, I want to have the outline of the reindeer. And then when we went out to the field, somebody told me, the reindeers are there, and you are going opposite. And I said, yes, my picture is over there, because there's a hillside, the sun is making a backlight, so the hillside is dark, and then I have to wait until they come. And if you run towards them, they will come to me sooner or later. And that's what it happened. I was waiting at the right place for them to come. And this has been happening to me a lot of times. I change all the possibilities of the day for one picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to do, because you can hear in the distance, these frames per second, 14 or 12, ta, 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 and you are there with nobody, nothing in front of your camera. But suddenly it happens, and then everybody runs, but it's too late, because if you see it, you miss it. You have to be ready before. It's so funny.
Well, it's really an art to be at the right place at the right time, and waiting for the thing you expected to happen to actually happen. And most of us just go there and find something cool and shoot it, and don't really visualize the shot into the future.
Yep. I mean, a photographer has to have both things: the fast reaction and improving, and then making things go very, very fast, but also having a vision, also getting ready for exactly what you want. And then you can discover what is wrong in the frame, what doesn't match with your idealized picture. And it makes an easy process, much easier, I think. And it's very important, this kind of exercises. They are not great pictures, but you are finding the lines, trying to drive them somewhere. This is exercising, just exercising. And then in the moment of truth, when you are in Iceland, you are in the Namib desert, then you know what is a line, you know what is a dot, you know how to place them, you know how to work them, you know how to use them to lead your attention towards the subject in the frame, and it flows very easily. Everything is more easy if you find the elements and know what you're looking for. Sometimes it supposes a lot of work, a lot of shots. You will see later a cougar with the moon, which is the only picture in the world with a wild cougar and the moon in the same frame, no Photoshop. And it was like that. It was just waiting with the moon, but the cougar was not there. And everybody was with the cougar shooting crazy. But suddenly the cougar moved. When the cougar moves, even if you run, you cannot reach the cougar. And it came in front of me and with the moon. So sometimes you have to wait and shoot and know what you are going after. Well, outline is not the same as shape. Outline is empty inside. It's more basic element than the shape. Outline is when the line connects with its starting point. And then you have these basic outlines, a square, circle, triangle. And this is the basic to know about what is a line, how it works. And also later about direction and structure. For example, from the circle, all the curved lines come out. And is also the basics in harmony, is the basement, is the cement, that's where the harmony is constructed, the round shapes or round outlines. Let's see about them a bit more, how we use them in the landscape. Sometimes like this kind of easy visual dialogue. I mean easy because there's not much to see. It's just the shape of an animal, the guanaco, and the moon. But the way we connect them in this, again, asymmetrical balance, again, based on anchor point, optimal anchor points, this is very, very efficient. I can only find 2 or 3 ways to do this picture efficient, and this is one of the most efficient I find. This is from the Photopills camp, and when I was shooting, somebody beside me said, "Oh, the lighthouse." No, what I like is the triangle. Is there a triangle there? Oh, a lot. Tell me, please. Well, between the lights, there's a blue triangle. Every ray of light is a triangle, and the roof is a triangle, and I am trying to make a main axis with the lighthouse. Oh, sorry, I don't understand you. I will go to take my photos. Okay. I'm joking, of course. But sometimes I see triangles and I have to photograph them. This is the Guggenheim building in Bilbao, in Spain. Many people come to see the building and photograph the whole building. Of course I did, but I also saw so many triangles in my frame that I wanted to get the picture. Or the round shapes, they are there. So, but the difficulty is to know how to treat a circle or an ellipse shape. This is the most difficult thing. It's not about the tide. It's not only about the rocks and the texture on the rocks. There's a big shape in the frame, and it needs space. It needs proportion. It needs a good tonal scheme to be seen, and everything has to be together. The proportion of the sky, for example, is the Pareto's principle: 80%, 20%. The thirds are not a rule. It's a very bad name they gave to the thirds. Thirds, hemiolia or sesquialter, is the relation between 6 and 4. 6 contains 1.5 times 4. And this is a proportion coming from music and mathematics, and it cannot be used always. So my approach to proportion is fill the frame. Sometimes you have a cloud and you have to go 50-50 in the frame, tatami proportion, which comes from Japanese art. And then you have to fill this. You cannot go through a formula or through a tip forever. There are many occasions that you have to go to the square root proportion or Pareto's principle, as I said, or any other proportion. We have so many to choose between. This is a slide film, 1970, shoot with Novoflex, 400 millimeters, and Nikon FM2 in Africa. It's not the zoo. Well, then we have direction, which is the way you explore the frame, and the way that the author, the author of the picture, leads you, helps you to explore the frame, conditions you to explore the frame. So we have, from the square, we have the vertical and horizontal lines, which are the axes that structure the picture. A realistic picture is structured by axes. From the triangle, we have these diagonal oblique lines, and from the circle, we have the curved line. And we will see some examples of direction. Maybe you see the direction. We can also call this a close composition. We are framing, we are trying to close the upper part of the frame with these branches leading to this main subject and the small one, the older and the young one. But this is an exercise, a clear exercise of direction, and everything is driving you to these subjects, these two subjects. Even the sun is acting as a dot there, calling your attention to this middle between these trees. Again, it's an exercise. This is the vertical axis. This line is showing you that the visually dominant element in the frame, the upper on the frame, is making a structure, is making a strong line there. The second one should be the horizon, and then it established these master lines, two master lines, one or maybe none in case of a texture. So this is about vertical hierarchy, the foreground and the background, and how our brain understands that the foreground, what is down is closer, and what is up is far away. Here is a very realistic frame. We have this horizontal line and the vertical line on the pine tree. I will show you the lines, the master lines. And this is how a picture is a structure. Of course, photography is not only this. This is the aesthetical or visual impact part of photographing. Then we have the emotional part of photography. Both are the visual impact, aesthetics, emotions. But it's good to have a high level of aesthetics and knowing what is not working well, or how do you want to make these dialogues between the pine tree and the rocks on the foreground. And then you start to feel the frame. You start to feel comfortable, to feel the place, to feel the lines, to feel the elements, to feel the wind, and to communicate what you want to say with your picture about the beauty of the wilderness, or about your feeling of loneliness in the night, or whatever you are looking for. This is an oblique line. This picture I put because it is not very good picture for watching, but it's very good for teaching. When I say the oblique lines come from a triangle, it's very difficult to realize how an oblique line is a triangle. But if you see at the upper part of the frame is a blue triangle very clearly there. So always that you see an oblique line, there's a triangle hiding somewhere in the frame. And it's very dynamic, these triangles. For example, here there are at least two triangles, big triangles in the structure, but they are not very evident. When you communicate the house and the sun, your eye, your perception is making a line. Your movement of your head is making a line between the house and the sun. It's a visual dialogue. And that's an oblique line, and that makes two big triangles up and down. All the frame is two big triangles. It's very difficult to see in the beginning. I agree.
Yeah. Definitely. But Jose, where do you find inspiration, or how do you come up with ideas and then that you want to integrate in a picture or convey in a picture?
Yep. For example, many people watch pictures, but when I see picture, I enter in this competition mode that I don't like.
Yeah.
So I like to go painting. I like to go on dancing, for example, or theater, or filming, or films, even old films in black and white, Dr. Caligari's Cabinet, or crazy films, old films and new films. And then I see something in my brain, and the idea comes to me. Sometimes I'm dreaming, and I dream always with notebook beside. And then everything I think about, I write it. But my main source of inspiration, of teaching, of learning is painting.
Painting.
Painting. Yep. Well, this is one of the strongest direction. It's called irradiation. We have in the clouds, we have sometimes in the aurora borealis, northern lights. We have them in leaves, for example, as you see in this texture. But this is an irradiation. All the lines are irradiated from a thick line. In this case, they irradiate from a circle. The base of the irradiation is not a line, it's like a circle, and from there is like a point. They spread. Those are taken with a mobile phone. I don't care which is the tool. If I see the picture, I have to take it. Sometimes somebody asks me, which is your camera? Well, my camera is the one I have closer, is the best one. Sometimes I have to borrow one because I am with my family somewhere, and then, oh, there's a picture here. Oh, there's a guy with a camera. Oh, can you let me take a picture? And then you send me. So I make a lot of friends with this obsession. Well, the tonal value is also very, very important to achieve this feeling of deepness or volume or relief. So to understand tonal value, we have to learn about the light, the four qualities of light: direction, intensity, color, and quality. If we understand light, everything is easy. And especially nocturnal or macro or still photography or portrait in studio, when you have to add light or even add all the light that is in the frame. If you don't understand light, you better don't start adding light, because you can be incongruent. It can be that you create a very, very false, very difficult to see this light because it goes wrong. Sometimes the shadow come from the same place that the light. This is not possible. You're doing something wrong with the light. So understanding light for me is very, very important. And then I can modify the tonal scheme of a frame. So to make this kind of pictures, it has taken me a lot of time, and I have to improve still a lot. I am learning for 35 years and still have many things to learn. So for this kind of picture, first I do, instead of light in the tree or something, is just to expose for the sky. I have to find the right time for the exposure so that the clouds start to be lines, irradiation again. Then I see the irradiation. I find is 35 seconds, let's say, depends on the wind, the focal length. But once I find the time, then I realize that then I have to run to illuminate the tree from one side. I illuminate the tree in small parts, the trunk from one side, the upper part of the tree, the treetop from different parts also, because sometimes there are holes in the tree which are very dark, and it takes some time to decide which to illuminate or which not to do. Some pictures are more about the message, the forest of the future. For me, this is the forest of the future. Only one tree, lot of machines, big things. This is what I like to do a lot, to deliver messages about conservation. This energy is clean, but we cannot destroy the birds and the landscape to put them. And the way to do it today, to be economically well, to be productive, is to put a lot of them together in a small landscape, and then you destroy the landscape. And when you talk to the authorities, why don't you put them in a more separate, in a bigger place? Or, oh no, there's a lot of wire, a lot of work, a lot of well, finally we destroy nature in many, many ways. So to learn about tonal value, as I told you, you need to learn about light. This is a light scheme from side light, backlight, and then both together, and fine-tuning the intensity of the two directions. So it's about direction, it's about the quality, because it's a harsh light, it's a torch, so it has to be managed very carefully. And then we achieve this kind of light scheme at the end that gives you the feeling of popping out of the frame. So we learn about the keys, the tonal values in the keys, the low key, which is based in dark tonal values. The high key predominates the brightest tonal values. And the major key is about that we find in the low key, there's also white, pure white. And in the minor low key, we have a predominant dark tonal values, and we don't have the white. We have some gray in the middle, in the zone 6, 7, 5, but we don't have the opposite tonal value to the key. So it's a low contrast scheme. And the major keys are high contrast keys. So just to learn about them, I will show you some examples. It's very easy. Which tonal values are predominating? The brightest, so it's a high key. Is there black? No, it's a medium gray, 5 zone, 6 zone gray. So we have a high key and minor, because we don't have the black. If we have the black, if we have a high contrast situation, then it should be major. And here we have a predomination of dark tonal values. We have a low key, and we don't have the pure white. So again, it's a low key minor. It's not so difficult. You just have to see some examples. Upper place predominating these brightest tonal values. So we have high keys. Major, because we have black. Minor, instead of the black, we have a gray. and down are the low keys. Major, we have the white, and minor, we don't have the white, the opposite. And we named this kind of pictures. We gave the name extreme bitonal key. Extreme because it's black and white. Bitonal because there's no gray, it's only black and white, only two. And this had no name. There was no name for this until the moment we gave it. So still we are making some improvements in composition. Well, about color, it has a deep relationship with feelings. Color is about feelings. It's about emotion. There are expansive colors like all the warm colors like red, pink, orange, and contractive, the greens, the blues, and it depends on the weight and the activity they have. The primary, the more effective are yellow, red, and blue. These are the ones which, if you mix them, you get all the rest of the colors. They are the pigment colors, the primary. This has nothing to see with the schemes in RGB or CMYK. It has nothing to see about the additive and subtractive theory of colors. These are the colors that mix bring the rest of them. The colors of light, the colors of painting. The dimension of the color can be defined as hue, saturation, and brightness. Hue is the big family, the reds, the greens, the blues. Saturation is the pureness pureness of gray inside the composition, inside their formula. But also means saturation means that how much gray does the color have inside. And brightness is about the luminosity of the color. It's not the same blue sky or marine blue, deep blue. And color is very, very special for us. We always prefer this kind of photos, plenty of color. It gives us the feeling of happiness. And but composition helps us a lot with they are not in the frame, or it's a time of the day that the colors are not there. We have to learn also the complementary, not only the primary, but the complementary. Complementary are the opposite on the wheel of colors, and it means that you can mix them and you can still illuminate in white or giving the dominant that you want to give. The first picture up on the left is taken at 10,000 Kelvin, manual, white balance, and then everything is reddish. If I shoot a flash on these rocks, it should be reddish as well, because the white light passing through the red filter of the camera should be red, which I did inside. If you see this red light inside the stones, this is a flash without this filter. Then I put the blue filter, and this blue filter mixed with red is the opposite, is the complementary, and makes it white. It's like a miracle. It comes from the old times of slide film. And down is the next picture is balance in manual, 3200. And then I choose the orange filter. And then when they mix, they make white again. Mm-hmm. So it's important to know about this and how to manage the color when it has to be subtle and when it's time to be saturated, depending on the picture and your intention. So the pastel colors, the saturated colors, they convey this subtlety, this delicacy with subtlety. Yes, it's right. So they are desaturated. They have very, very little gray or no gray in their composition as color. Well, and this is saturation, but it's also movement. It's also this movement to make abstraction. Abstraction, when you become abstract and you start to make abstract pictures, is a level of expression. We have the realistic, the abstract, and the symbolic. When you get to abstraction, color comes to you very strongly. Many people come to abstraction because of the color. They want to experience the color, they want to understand the color, and then abstraction blurs the shape, and colors come with more importance in your picture. So there's dominance of color, there's order of visual weight, the color. Red is very, very heavy color, very strong color. Next is orange, blue, green, and the lightest is the yellow, is the color of the light that represents the sunlight, is the yellow, and is the less heavy, the lighter. And we are delighted by this kind of picture, plenty of colors. And there's a heart in here. So easy to see in these times. I remember when 35 years ago, I started teaching groups in photography and teaching teachers in schools about photography. And I had to tell them, don't you see the heart? No, I see two birds. Where is the heart? And I had to outline the birds and say, oh, yes, now I see. Nowadays, I think we are more receptive to this kind of pictures. Now we are mixing moments. This is a lot about photography. There are a lot of photographs that it seems that are taken without any care, and some others that look that has been very, very carefully structured, and the position was very carefully chosen. And here is very important to have this springtime feeling in the foreground. It gives you this moment, special moment. In autumn, you cannot take this picture. It's a moment. And we have the moon, the full moon in the sky. It's not all the days that you can take the photo. And also you have this balance in the light that you can see very well as the background and the foreground. And when you are processing color, when you are treating the color, then I recommend you to do several versions with small variation, 5, 6 of these important pictures, and then you choose one, and it will be forever. If you don't compare them, one day you open the picture and you say, oh, I think I could be more saturated, and then you saturate the picture. Next day you open again, oh, the reds were very, very strong, and I had to desaturate only the reds. Next day you open, oh, what happened with the yellows? So I think sooner or later you have to close your picture forever, and by comparison is very safe way to do it, to decide if that's the right point of saturation and the color treatment that you are looking for. This is also one of my all the awards in photography. It delivered me the silver medal of one federation, big federation in Europe in photography, the FIAP, Federation of International Art. Well, again, the moon is there, and this feeling, those are very, very old pictures. This is not what I'm doing now, but also show very well what I want to teach. So for me, color is the end of a process, always. It's not the beginning, it's the end. It can be that colors call me, come here, look, color, okay, but I will keep you for the end of the process. First, I want a subject or foreground or element, and then I want dialogue or not dialoguing, just the shape. And when I'm going to make the click, then I think, what am I feeling? Which is the message of my picture? It's about loneliness, it's about magnificence, it's about eternity, and which color comes with this. And then I go to the balance and create the color, and everything is closed in that moment. And also when you are processing, if you start processing a picture in RGB mode, and you have to contrast, and you have to do this and to do that, color is being affected. The only way to prevent affecting to color saturation and color dominance is to go to lab mode. If you go to lab mode, you can contrast, you can do whatever without affecting to color. If you do not, you're affecting the color, so you better wait until the end, and when you are about to finish the processing of the frame, then you fine-tune the color, and better, as I told you, by comparing.
Nice.
Well, now we go to the desert.
I love deserts.
Yeah, because then you are alone in front of emptiness.
Yeah.
And then you discover yourself very much, because there's nothing else than you and the desert. And the desert is very much bigger. It's a big lesson about humility, to to human people. Well, now I'm efforting on trying to communicate, to establish this visual relationship between these palm trees and the texture of the dune. And for me, the texture of dune also has a direction. It's leading me somewhere. It's driving me from down to up. And then I look for a place where it's more visible and where I can place the palm trees where I want, and to have some lines driving there. I divide texture between pattern and mosaic. Pattern is... ¿Sí? ¿Perdona?
No, I was like, yeah, I love this image.
As well.
Yeah, as well.
Happy.
So
yeah. Well, texture has to see a lot with regularity, repetition, musicality, cadence. It has to be treated like a partiture, like a musical partiture. In fact, in the Gestalt, in the Bauhaus movement, they learn pattern with music. The teachers used to put music and show frames with these patterns. So pattern is Euclidean mathematics, and mosaic is fractal mathematics. So this is a fractal, this is mosaic, it's not a pattern. It's a visual texture, it's not real because it's not the composition of the material. We are not seeing what is, how is a leaf or a trunk or a sand or a stone composed of. We see the visual texture. And then it's not a repetition of a shape exactly the same, which is a pattern, which should be, for example, a textile. If I photograph a macro of this, we will see the imbrication of we will see the textile, and then it will see a pattern. But this is a mosaic. This is a fractal. There's nothing exactly the same in the frame. So in many, many of these pictures, we are talking about patterns, and they are really mosaics. How do I recommend to photograph texture from a composition point of view? I try to respect the texture, like the one before we saw, and then we show it complete. For example, this is broken, this is interrupted. There's a change, there's a line, soft line, wide line that divides color and tonal values up and down. And if I photograph only against the dark part of the frame, if I make a macro of this part of upper part, then I respect the texture. I'm not breaking the texture, but this one is broken. I have introduced this broken. And I can also photograph the texture as an element, like the sand dunes in the desert and the palm trees. It was a foreground with the texture and a background with the palm trees. I don't find many more ways to photograph the texture. This is respected. I respect the texture. I don't introduce or look for any change, any disruption. This is like a subject on the background, and this is Antelope Canyon, and then illuminating with a torch, always not direct light, just bouncing the light on the rest of the rocks, so that the rock comes from a big surface from the rest of the canyon to this to my frame, and then I use the background with the sky. Again, I'm breaking the texture. I have chosen this fallen leaf in a car, on a car, and then I chose this picture because it's broken. The texture is broken, and this I create this texture with a torch at the ground level, just to put out the texture and communicate it to the background. Scale and proportion is a way of measuring the space. It's a way to establish comparison, a reference. The most used scale is the human figure. We know how much a body measures, and then we can establish these proportions. We know how this place is big or small, depending on the size of the person that appears. And it can be manipulated. We can give this feeling of big or small, depending if the figure is close and the lens that I am using. And you are very accustomed to see this nocturnal picture with a small figure placed in the frame, just to give this feeling of magnificence. And proportion is about where you place the axis mainly, and the distance between the shapes and the edge. We will see a bit more about proportions. This is the same desert and the same palm trees we saw. But then I decided to work this feeling of scale. I forgot about the texture because I got the picture. I was very happy. And then I moved and waited for hours and hours. And people came through. What is there? Nothing. I'm waiting. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for somebody to go through. Oh, in the desert. It's very difficult. But 2 hours later, a caravan of camels passed by with people there, and then gave me that feeling of scale of how big the desert is.
There was a road down there, so you knew that there was a path, or was just magic?
It was absolutely crazy to be waiting there. My friend Al Kelman was there.
Al Kelman
was there, and also Kari Loimu from Finland was there, and they came through and said, "Are you waiting here for something?" Yes, but I don't know what. It can be a camel, it can be a person, it can be 7 camels or 12.
Yeah,
you are a bit crazy. Yes, but if they come, you will see the picture, and then then we talk again.
Yeah.
This is, as you see, the nesting colony of storks by night, and they are just arrived. They are still not nesting. They are just laying on the nest without eggs. It's very early in springtime, and I don't want to risk any light or nothing. This is the 400 2.8 millimeters, and then I have to choose a crazy ISO. And it's good that I face north, because then the star trails are much shorter than south. If I point south with the same time, is crazy. This is also about this rule of 500 and the focal length. Pointing where is not the same pointing north and south. It's not on the formula. It's very bad formula. Who did it? Well, this is about proportions. How many proportions do you know? I can tell you more than 10. Sturgeon proportion, for example, 10% to 90%. How do you use the proportions? Where do you apply them? I apply to axis, to structure of the picture, and to elements between them, and to the edges. Let's see one of these proposals, which is Pareto's principle, 20% to 80%, and ratio 0.20. Is the relationship between this line, this proportion of line, and the whole space on this height of the frame. This is proportions. I come back, sorry. If we have an empty sky, do you really want a third of the frame empty? And then missing the people there, and the dog, and the surfers, and everything happening there? No, it could be even less. It could be Benito proportion, 15 to 70 to 85, or it could be Sturgeon, 10%, 90%, but not thirds, or not tatami for that one. Suddenly we go to tatami. This is tatami proportion, 50-50, or very close to 50-50. Why? Because I have the clouds, I find this cropping point, and I think, okay, this is my frame, and this is my proportion. But it's not on the thirds. No, I don't want it on the thirds. Not always. What is dimension? Dimension is that we miss one of them. We miss the deepness. When we photograph, we have the height and the width, but we don't have the depth. So we have to represent it graphically. So we have these perspectives, for example, linear, atmospherical. Also, the light helps a lot. Also, the depth of field can help us with dimension, or the use of the lenses as well. The distance between the element in the foreground and the one in the background. So those are ways to achieve dimension, to give the feeling that there's a lot of distance in your frame. Also, we can use the colors, the weight of the colors, the tonal values. All these are aids to find proportion. Again, the scale, to use a human figure small on the background and big foreground, can help to establish this dimension. And we have the atmospherical or aerial perspective, which was, I think, one of the first was Leonardo da Vinci, that established in his book of painting. He had a book, a kind of notebook for teaching and for his own notes. He established how it works. This is the charge or the amount of water particles in suspension in the atmosphere, in the air, and then it makes you perceive less contrast in the distance, less sharpness in the distance, brighter tonal values in the distance, and often a dominance of color, which can be cold in the bluish in the cloudy days, or warmth in the twilight. And it is the way that you represent it. If you look at the rock in the foreground, it's very well defined, it's a lot of contrast, and as you go up, it goes vanishing. There's this atmospherical charge, this atmospherical drops. This is provoked by me. This is blowing on the lens. I do very often, not only in the front part of the lens, but also on the rear, on the filter. And sometimes I use a paper or plastic thing or some textile white to make also fog on the foreground.
So you do Jose, you do like that.
Yes, I do like that. Okay. And everybody's laughing around. What are you doing? Are you cleaning the lens? No, I'm making the mist.
Why the mist in this scene?
Because it's mystery. It is mystery. It's this mystery that surrounds the lighthouses in the past, that they are trying to prevent accidents from the boats. They are very close to the sea. They are very exposed to the storms. And this light, this atmosphere with the moon, I felt this mystery and I was missing the mist. So I said, okay, I will open my own mist. I have the mist in my pocket.
Inside yourself.
Yes, if it's cool enough outside. And this is again tonal value. We have this light that is creating this feeling of dimension, of deepness. And I am photographing with a 400 2.8, which is a long lens that gives you a flat perspective. So it's only the tonal values which are giving you this feeling that is distance between the elements. Or sometimes it's the distance and the use of the focal lengths. This is a rock which is barely at a meter to my camera, and we have the lighthouse which is very far away in the distance. So this distance is, you can appreciate it, that is, one thing is very close and the other one is very far away, and it's the focal length that has been helping to do this. And also there's a human figure very small there that helps to give him the feeling of deepness, the scale. And as I told you, is also the colors, the weight of the colors. If you place down these weight colors, these reddish colors and brownish colors, and then you have the green and the yellow, which are lighter, it gives you the feeling that there's more weight in the foreground and the background is much lighter.
Is that a painting or?
No, this is a slide film. It's a 200 millimeters and slide film, Fuji Belvia.
Wow.
Very old photo as well. This is the end of the presentation goes about movement. This is the last element we are going to talk today. And it's always there. Movement is always there. It can be evident, like this spiral that goes to the infinite and goes through this person, which is driving us to the light. But it's always there because when you see the picture, when you follow the lines, when you investigate what is there, we are following roots, and that roots are giving movement to the frame. So it is always there. You can create it with this kind of Vaseline or oils that you spread in a filter, and you create the movement even much more evident than it was. And I used to speak about the movement like this: the freeze movement, when you frozen the movement, when you stop the movement. Sometimes the movement is so fast that the naked eye can barely see what happened, but the camera can't stop it. Sometimes you induce the movement. I mean, there's nothing moving in the frame, but you choose a slow shutter speed and then you move the camera. Or if you follow a subject, then it's called panning, and it's also an induced movement. And the movement only of the subject, which is most of the nocturnal pictures we take, and the stars are moving or the water is moving, then it's the subject which is moving, but not the camera. The camera is sturdy. And this, I'm checking the camera at half a second, and then I'm trying to get this distortion of a palm tree. I'm trying to make it dance. I'm trying to make it abstract. And it's much more difficult than getting it sharp, because I'm looking for a special result. This is
how did you took it? I mean, it is like a backlit.
It was against the cloudy sky, so
Cloudy
the
sky.
sky was very, very ugly, and everybody was saying, "What are you doing, man? This is very awful situation."
Yeah.
But I was saying, I'm trying to make the palm tree dance. Hey, how do you do the palm tree dance? They put F22. Okay. ISO 50. Okay. And speed down. It will be blurred. Yes, it will be blurred. That's what we are looking for. But sometimes we don't want this blur, and we want to stop this action. And then we need a fast shutter speed, 1/8000th or 1/1600, like this one. This is induced. There was nothing moving here, but 1/8 of a second, and then I shake the camera in different movements, and I choose the one I like better of them. And this is the subject that moves. And with the camera, the lens, everything is fixed, but the raven was not fixed. And then it makes this movement. And panning is a combined movement. I slow down the shutter speed, and then I follow the movement of the car, more or less. And this is again induced, but it's a mix of leaving the camera for some seconds to depict the trees, to show the trees, and the rest of the exposure moving the camera just to contact them, like if the trees were talking between them. It's like a meeting of trees. And for many nocturnal, I don't like very much to add light. Sometimes I do, but for me, it's so magical, this situation of backlight with the sky. I like very much. And this is the cougar and the moon I told you before. That I was there without the cougar, and everybody was with the cougar. But I had the moon. And then the cougar moved towards me and passed in front of my camera. This is the 400 again, 400 2.8 with a gimbal and tripod and everything. Everybody was laughing at me. Oh man, so heavy, your gear is so heavy. Yes. But wait until the moment comes, and then we will see what happens.
That moment is really unique because the moon is moving.
The moon is moving? No.
No, I mean that the moon moves fast. So
yeah.
You were at the right place. The moon was at the right place, and the cougar came, and it was magic. I mean,
2 minutes later, and it's not the same.
It's not the same. The moon moves so fast.
Yeah,
and,
especially when it comes out. Yes.
Yeah. How far away were you from the
cougar? Maybe 25 meters, something like this.
Yeah.
Not close. I have some with wide angle because this particular cougar is not very scared, and it allows you to get closer.
Nice.
Well, one of those long exposures that I started to do with the slide film in the 80s, and then it became like fashion to do this. But when I ask somebody why you do this, the answer is, "Oh, I like it." But I had a very strong intention when I did this kind of things. I had the strong explanation about this. And one thing that many people don't know is that when we shot with moonlight, we are working with polarized light. The moonlight is polarized because the moon is not emitting light. It's not a source of light. It's bouncing the sunlight. And every line you bounce, when it comes from reflected from any surface, it comes polarized. One of the components of the electromagnetic wave of the light is missed. You only have the directional light, and this is polarized. So when we shot in the growing moon, in the crescent moon, or in the when it's not moonlight or there's no moon, then we have this polarization, and we can see in the corners like this. If we were using a polarizer, especially in these middle stages of the moon, it doesn't happen with no moon or with full moon. It happens always in the middle. And this is one of my biggest awards, these storks in the night with very soft illumination, but it is 5 minutes illumination, so it was very, very, very subtle source of light to prevent them scaring of me. These are my books, and this is again my website, and this our teaching platform, casadelafoto.com. You can find us there. And today, with this translation of YouTube, and you have a lot of ways of translating to Spanish, from Spanish to English, and we have also articles that can be easily translated. And we have 11 workshops for the moment, 3 in composition, some for wildlife, some for juries in photography, some for landscapes, some for reportage, many things. Live and recorded, there's a free area, totally free, articles, YouTube channel, and more.
Jose, it's amazing, because when I asked you to come here and give us a presentation on composition, you told me, how can I teach composition in 1 hour if my course is like 8 hours or 20 hours? I don't know how many hours you told me. That
24.
24 hours.
8 hours each.
So yeah, it's a a long career, the one that you have, and your photos are just impressive, and you love you to explain each of them, how you came with the idea and the feelings and everything. But today you've given one of the best presentations in this Photobill channel. I'm so happy to have you. People were waiting for the cougar photo, and well, thanks a lot. You have any other tips, or how any advice for people and to approach the scene?
It's essential to learn. It's essential. This is not, if you want to learn an instrument, a musical instrument, you don't go in a room and start to make noises with the instrument. Or if you want to learn a language, you don't go inside the room and start saying words. No, you need to learn with a teacher, with somebody, with a book, with something to learn. And in photography, it is not a matter of taking photos. And it empowers you if you copy pictures of some other. You have to learn what you do. You have to know your way, which is it. And you have to know what you like and develop your style and the way you like the things. I think this is the safer and the most funny way to do this. Look at me. I've been photographing since I was 12. And now I'm 55. And I have the same encouragement and illusion to go out again to take pictures. Everybody will tell you, "Oh, Benito never stops taking pictures. How can you do it so long in the time?" Because I know what I want to do with my camera. I want to give some strong messages about composition, strong messages about feelings, about so many things that I keep still working with the same strength that I started.
Have your photos managed to help in the conservation world? How important is photography in telling stories that can help make this world a better place?
For example, now one of them, for the campaign in Spain to protect the wild wolf in Spain. All my pictures were used by World Wildlife Fund.
Okay.
To protect the landscape in Aragon now with these enormous windmills factories, they are using my pictures for this. Greenpeace, maybe you know Greenpeace, used in 2015 all my pictures from the coastal project SOS Coastal Landscape to make this inform for the ministry. to say, look what we are doing to our coastline. So yeah, they are doing well in conservation. Of course, you don't do them for money because conservation photographers are always poor. But you balance your work for stock agencies, your work for assignments, your work for National Geographic or Geo International or magazines or publishers.
Yeah, and you were telling before that you also produce, or you're involved in as a director of photography and a scriptwriter and producing all these documentary series for nature. And
I started with cinema, managing this Aton camera, film cameras, and then moved to video SP, SX, digital video, and now I'm with drones and everything. But always inside this feeling that we have to communicate, we have to inspire the people to tell them what is nature, because many people live in the city and they cannot see this landscape very often, and to inspire them to feel that we have to do the right things to preserve nature.
No, totally. Jose, a really inspiring class and talk. I know everybody in the chat is like, oh yeah, I love Jose. And we have Dreamer and other people from the Photobills camp saying hi too.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I don't know what to say.
The first picture I showed, I think it was from Gilles Rochol, that took a lot of pictures of the Photobills camp. Very great job, Gilles Rochol.
Amazing! Well, what a crazy event we have in Menorca. I don't know. It's amazing. Jose, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you here. I know that tomorrow you have another talk in Spanish in this channel, because here we gave the classes in English and Spanish. And thanks so much for doing that. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep, tomorrow we have the second one in Spanish. Yes. Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and guys, as always, if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and all these things. And I'll see you tomorrow in the Spanish version of this epic composition class with Jose. And bye.
Keep photographing.
Yeah, and imagine, and remember that you have the power to imagine, plan, and shoot legendary photos. It's all about here, imagination. Bye.
Bye.